Hi, I'm John Knutson, and tonight we're going to be talking to City Council candidate Randy Morrissette, and we've got a number of questions for Randy. Before we get into some of the questions, can you give the viewers a brief bio or a little bit of an update on yourself, including your time in Hudson, educational background, family information, history of service with Hudson? We'd like to have the community get to know the man, the myth, and the legend like some of us know. So take it from there, Randy.
Well, thanks, John, and thanks for having me at this interview. Well, as you're well aware, I'm a born and raised Hudson guy. I've lived and grew up on First Street down in the city, and kind of played on the river through my whole life growing up down there. Had forts in most of the places where everything's been developed in
I think
town.
a lot of people knew your parents as well.
Absolutely, and I give them a lot of credit for developing who I am today, along with the Phipps Center, because when the Phipps Center started getting built, which was the old Elks Club at the time, I used to be running around during the construction of the building. So I was meant to go, I guess, into the Phipps Center, because that's kind of where I cut my teeth on being in the general public.
Sure.
So I went to Hudson High School. I have three sisters, two older, one younger. My mom and dad just recently moved to Baldwin. We sold their house on First Street a few years back, and they're both still with us, getting on in age, as I am as well. And I went to school at Stout, and I have a psychology degree, and I was a juvenile counselor for a while in Washington County. And then somehow I fell into the hospitality industry, and I started as a maintenance guy there. And then I worked my way up, and as to now, I am the corporate director of operations for a small property management company where we own and operate about 10 hotels.
What are some of the brands you represent?
Hilton, Holiday Inn Expresses, Comfort Suites here in town is one of them, which is Choice International. And we're building a new one in Mankato, Minnesota, which is a Candlewood Suites.
Terrific. Let's hear a little bit about your family in Hudson here.
I have two boys, two young adults, I should say. They're 26 and 22. And my wife of going on 29 years, of Kirsten. They are both employed. I'm very happy with my family. They went to the Hudson High Schools. They've been born and raised here in Hudson. Jacob was a varsity football player, but I guess I'm digressing a little bit. Moving up, he's managing a factory up in New Richmond.
Terrific, terrific. Well, let's start getting into the questions that the constituents in town will want to know before elections. And you're unopposed now again this year. How many years have you represented the city council?
I'll be going into the 19 years. I was appointed in 2006. So that was...
That's a long time.
It was a long time. If my math is right, it's 9 terms, if that's,
Yeah, that's a lot of history.
But I will tell you one thing I'm proud of, and I know that's one of the questions, is that I've only missed 3 council meetings in 19 years.
Pretty good attendance. I would think that would be important for the mayor and the council in general, is just availability, you know, and so that's terrific. Can you explain what ward or district you cover for the council and maybe the geographical parameters of that?
Yes, I am District 1 representative, which was kind of where the old fire station was, down on 3rd and Walnut.
Right.
So you go up the hill and all the way to the middle of 7th Street, and then you can go all the way south to the city limit to the south of the Lee property, and over to Beaneman Farm.
Okay.
So all the riverfront and River Ridge Road and all that is the district.
Beautiful. Okay. I know you've led departments and city initiatives in the past for several different mayors. Can you explain some of what you've done in the past, anything you're currently doing, and maybe lastly, anything you hope to do in the future?
Yeah, that's kind of a tied question. You could tie those two questions together. The biggest thing that I've been proud of is that I've always, because of my mother and father, my dad was a police officer for over 25 years here in the city, and he retired as acting chief of police, and my mom was a community leader, businesswoman in town.
Right.
And she really was involved with the Chamber of Commerce at the time, and that's where I kind of got my passion for servant leadership. And this mayor and other mayors have made the conscious effort to put me on public safety through most of my tenure. And that has been very passionate for me because it's one of the simplest, most number one priority any elected official really has, is keeping our public safe, keeping our city safe, and giving them the tools that they can to perform the job to be able to do that. So I'm very proud of the fact that we built a fire station, that we just purchased a building for a new police department over on Higgin and Hanley. It's the old Philip Meta-sized building.
Sure, great location. Yep.
So we have presented the first renderings and processes a couple meetings back as far as what it's going to look like, what it's going to entail. And then as we move forward, hopefully by the next, within a year, we'll get the police department up there.
Okay, so timeline would be from drawings and conception to construction and completion within a year?
Within a year, maybe a year and a half.
Yeah, well,
Don't quote me on it.
Write that
Cost
down.
overruns, I don't.
Well, listen, I, as a resident of Hudson and having toured the fire department, I would say the city council, you and the other folks did a phenomenal job locating that, building that. I know the response times have been increased dramatically just because of the availability to get out of the area more quickly than downtown where all the lights and the congestion are and stuff. So kudos to you and the city for the fire department. If the police department goes as well, we'll all be better for it.
Yeah, it really is kind of more central location. Definitely the fire department, that location was. Police department is more centered now as well.
Yeah.
So it really will encompass more of the city, and you're absolutely right, the response times went down dramatically.
Yeah, and I would think that location for the police department, bigger building, even a little more land to possibly do whatever you might need to do into the future, that sounds like a good long-term solution to that situation.
We did plan at least 20 plus years into the future, and there will be also the impound lot up there. So we're condensing everything into one spot.
Sure, very good. Well, what are some of the current topical issues that you and the city council are currently facing that may have an impact on residents in Hudson?
Two main things, and a lot of it is attached to being a fiduciary and being very smart and very methodical about spending the city's taxpayers' money. Infrastructure, and the other would be affordable housing. We all recognize that there is an issue with affordable housing in Hudson, but there is no magic answer. And we all have to work and listen and talk it out, let the process work through, and hopefully we get developed. We need to be pro-development, but we also need to be conscious that we are at our limits when we're building here. We have only property to the east and to the south, and the city will only do that if we're asked to come into the city.
Right, for annexation. I mean, it is pretty obvious, but you can't go west because there's that little river situation, and north, you've obviously got North Hudson and Somerset there, and so east and south are the only logical spots. And I've heard that and recognize that too, is that unless an area is asked for annexation, the city's not going to go in and take over. I don't think Donald Trump is the mayor of Hudson right now. So, sorry, I didn't mean to get political there, folks. Can you explain the city's current situation? I guess we've talked a little bit about the police department. Is there anything more with emergency services that we might need to know?
No, right now I think that we've done a great service by getting Lakeview on board, because that was a very hot topic at the time, and they have reduced their response times as well, and we've had nothing but compliments with that.
Well, I think that the EMS situation, as most residents may realize, is many of us had friends or acquaintances working with the old ambulance service, so that's what really made it tough to even consider Lakeview coming in. But from what from what I've seen, read, and heard in my due diligence of learning about the situation, what Lakeview has done has been tremendous for everyone, most certainly for the residents, at least in quicker response times and things like that. So, again, the city made tough decisions, but they really ultimately, in retrospect, were good decisions that were made. So,
and one other thing, John, about the infrastructure, I've been working over on this 11th Street Higgin Bridge. And this is kind of one of your questions coming up, along with the development on Carmichael. Now, the state wants to redo that whole Carmichael interchange up there. We don't want them to do that, and we don't have any firm date or anything like that, but we need to address the 11th Street Bridge because the increase in that traffic crossing, there's no pedestrian safely crossing there. There's bicycles that want to cross there. And it's really, we've outgrown that size of bridge for there. So the mayor is really taking it with me, because I've been working on it for a better part of 5 years to get something done. We had the public hearings, we identified a specific plan we were going to go with, but we've come up against a funding issue.
Well, listen, as a former businessman in Hudson here, both with Resco Print Graphics, a printing company, and then with Catalyst Sports Medicine. Those are both in my area, and those of us who have driven that route and been stuck, blocks down the road waiting for right turn access and stuff, 11th Street is a huge concern. I mean, the only option I think we have, obviously, is build another bridge or a bigger, wider bridge, I would assume.
And that's what was spec'd out.
Now, the city has control over that 11th Street bridge. I understand with Carmichael, that whole interchange, you're dealing with the federal government with I-94, you're dealing with the state, you're dealing with the local, so you're obviously a lot more difficult situation dealing with Carmichael. Is there any other decision makers in the 11th Street Bridge other than the city?
Yes, the DOT. And then what we're going to do, the mayor and I were looking at teaming up and trying to get our state and local and federal partners, representatives, senators to start jumping in on this process for funding. We haven't been successful with grants, so we're still stagnant at trying to get it funded. We're looking at least $10 million for a new bridge, which would widen it and put new turn lanes in, and it would make it look better. But it's about safety as well. Now there are chunks that are falling off on east and westbound underneath. Not to mention that how many people were the gateway from western Wisconsin to Minnesota for urgent care that people need to go over for, emergency care. And then jobs. People go and commute. I mean, thousands, hundreds of thousands of traffic trips. Both ways, east and west, and then across Higgin and 11th Street. And you're right, it's only gotten worse because it's getting backed up. In the summertime, you're backed up to the Super 8, almost the Festival Foods now, just to get across the bridge.
And timing of the lights isn't going to change all of that. The only thing I think you can do, the choices you have, are just expand it and allow more capacity at some point. So,
and we are touching base with, hopefully, because we do have contacts since Sean Duffy was at one point our congressman for this district. We're hoping we can get some kind of traction with that office and push this a little further.
Good. Well, let's talk about another gem within the Hudson community, the park system, a little bit. Can you give us any updates on expansions or updates or anything new? As a resident, I've been to almost all of the local parks, and they're always well-kept, well-maintained. I know even Williams Park right now has gone under some revisions with new restrooms and things like that. So maybe give a little bit of an overview of the park system, what's been done, what's going to be done.
Well, right now, that is one of the big ones. The other one is at White Camp Park, we're putting a splash pad in.
My grandkids keep asking Grandpa about that splash pad because I live in Red Cedar Canyon, so White Camp Park is our second home with the grandkids. So
I think better part of 19 years that I've been here, everybody has said pool, splash pad, pool, splash pad.
So what about the timeline for the splash pad? Any idea that we can definitively tell people?
Don't quote me, but I believe it'll be up and running this, could be this summer.
Oh, that'd be
Because
wonderful.
I think they've started it. But again, I'm not on the park board,
Okay.
so I don't want to say something out of turn. But
Safely to say, within 1 or 2 years, the residents ought to
within
be
one.
able to have a beautiful, and White Camp Park, my proximity to White Camp is wonderful. We love White Camp Park, and what the hospital did to assist with the playground area is great. The snow sledding in the winter is incredible. It's my favorite local park. How about any of the other parks? Any more updates with Williams Park and the others?
Williams Park, they finished the restrooms that were badly needed up there. And we had a longtime resident on the corner up there has always been wanting that, and he finally got that in the light. So
Good.
now it's open. It should be open this spring.
How about Lakefront? Anything new there?
It's coming along. It continues to come along as we develop the master plan that we've laid out in the past on the riverfront, and you can see that we have the
and the
docks.
boardwalk area.
They're still adjusting that. We're still adjusting some of the parking issues down there in the boat launch.
Yeah.
But we're going to continue to try to develop that going.
I'm gonna hesitate to even ask you this next question, because when I came to town back in 1989, parking. What's the current status? The meters and everything, are they being observed? What's the status of the parking meter system in Hudson?
They're being observed.
Okay.
They're being used.
Okay. So you mean I should start paying for?
You might want to. The free stuff is done, John.
Okay. Well, in all seriousness, off and on, there are times that it's free. Through events and activities, it's sometimes free. It's a little bit hard to follow, I think, sometimes.
It is, but there is also the website which says what you can and can't do and how to go about it.
What's the best way to find that information?
The website on the City of Hudson.
On those tags? Oh, City of Hudson. Yeah.
Or the booth, or if you go to the booth.
Well, be more informed than I am about parking. But again, listen, Randy, we probably talked about this, and I have a daughter that works for MnDOT, and they always say the same thing. We don't have a parking problem. We have a walking problem.
I wasn't going to say that.
Listen, but you and I both know, if you go to any other community, it's not unusual to have to walk a mile or two from where you're parking to where you want to go. And in Hudson, we tend to complain if we have to walk more than 15 or 20 feet.
Yeah.
And that can be a problem.
It's a work in progress. We're still going to keep identifying where the needs are.
Yeah.
But, a lot of the restaurants and bars and shops downtown wanted us to turn these cars over.
Yeah.
For foot trip charge, keep them going so they can, more business. So.
Well, and maybe you can kind of resolve this debate. Almost everybody says build a parking ramp. My understanding in talking with people with MnDOT and DOT and things like that is parking ramps generally don't pay for themselves. What's the city's point of view? Because I know the old fire station, it was talked about a great deal. What about building a multi-level parking ramp there? Can you just definitively answer for the residents that the cost effectiveness just isn't there?
I couldn't do that, and I wouldn't do that because I don't know enough about it. I mean, Stillwater's was sitting empty for many years till they redid Stillwater and took the bridge out downtown. Now that parking lot is full. That ramp is full all the time.
It is, okay.
So I don't know the numbers, and I don't want to venture a guess because it'll come back to me going, well, you said. But
I'm writing down all your answers here. I'm going to check these dates and times on you. So
that would be the best place to put a ramp.
Okay.
And maybe there's a partnership there with a private ownership. Private, city, we don't know. We've got to flush it through.
I want to revisit the Carmichael interchange a bit, because I know there's been discussions with the mayor and the council and the city in general about, hey, we're going to do this by 2025. Well, we're here. And then things keep getting pushed. Can you just maybe explain where the holdup or the discussions might be on how, widening or making changes to Carmichael might happen?
We're trying to do it with the developers to be smart about it. Side.
developers, are you
On
talking
the east
state,
side.
federal, or local? Or?
Local.
Okay.
Local. We've had some things come to us, a development plan with a grocery store and
Okay.
more medical facilities with the
Right.
Hudson physicians up there.
Right.
And we were all for that, but the big question that came in was, what is the DOT going to do with the on and off ramp on the
Right.
interchange?
Right.
So that paused everything.
Okay.
And now I don't know where it's at.
Well, is it your understanding, though, that there would be federal funding because of the I-94 access? I would think federal government has to play a part.
We haven't gotten down that far enough.
Okay.
There is state funding, but Hudson would have to pick up a very big chunk of that.
Yeah.
That purchase, which is, I think the last number I remember is 34 million.
Yeah, when you look at the development along Vine Street, especially because you've got the middle school, to the east there, and you've got the new apartment complex on the corner, what used to be the old Atwood property. I mean, the congestion there. While we say it's getting busier, I drive there all the time, and I don't find it overbearing yet.
Well, and you're going to see another apartment building right
Soon?
next to that
Okay.
with a coffee shop there.
I see. Okay.
So that will pick up more traffic.
And I assume before school and as school exits, it's more of a problem too. I simply try to avoid that intersection.
Yeah, I think all Hudsonites do.
Yeah. Okay.
But as that develops out there, that whole corridor will be addressed.
Terrific. Yeah. Much like 11th Street, there has to be a logical way to find increased capacity.
Right.
So, okay. Well, Hudson's been blessed also, I think, with a great planning and development group of people working on the industrial parks. Having run two businesses, Catalyst and the printing companies in the industrial parks, it's great to be a business owner in Hudson. The mayors and the city councils that we've been blessed to have are rarely, if ever, adversarial. I never had any issues in 30-some years of running businesses here in Hudson. I found the council to be completely supportive on what we wanted to do. And yet I know the second industrial park, is getting close to capacity as well. What's on the horizon for future industrial development?
We do have some things to the south that people are looking at to develop into another. There's active searching for another industrial park.
Has River Falls asked to be annexed yet?
No.
No.
They probably want to ask us.
Okay. Well, River Falls is fairly aggressive
Correct.
on their growth plans.
And that's why we need to be just as aggressive.
Yeah, I think like many people, they feel the corridor on 35 between Hudson and River Falls at some point is going to be pretty solid.
It is.
With housing developments, I know Sterling Ponds has continued to grow, and that's one of the only available areas for Hudson growth.
Correct.
So I would think
Or to the east, the
Yeah.
northeast,
Yeah.
on the other side of Carmichael.
Terrific. What is something you might want constituents to know about Randy Morrissette that maybe they don't know right now? Other how handsome you are, how well educated you are, they all understand that. They can see that.
I just appreciation and servant leadership. I know that word gets kicked around a lot, but I also want the constituents to know that I've changed a lot on my time on the council, and I think it's for the better. I really do appreciate the other city council members that are on. Some of them are actually, I could call my friends, because I think we've gone through some ups and downs through the pandemic, and we had to relearn ourselves and our social skills, and I think we all had to relearn how to be respectful, agree to disagree.
And you can be very passionate about things like a dog track, and we've gone through some of those issues as a community. But you know what, I think much like Democrat or Republican in politics today, you have to be able to listen. You have to learn. You have to be willing to say, hey, maybe I need to change, my attitude on some of that. So I appreciate that answer.
And I think I have. I think I'm if it's common sense, then I'm going to go with that.
You're still a Packer fan, though, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Never a Viking. No.
Sorry, Viking fans. Go Pack, go. You know,
Born and raised here, you know, we're the first line of defense.
That's exactly right. Well, Randy, thanks so much for your time today. I think it helps people make informed decisions before they vote. On behalf of myself, Nate Skoog, and River Channel, and the residents of Hudson, thank you for your service to the community, and best of luck with the election in April.
All right. Thanks, John.
All right. Thanks, Randy.
Thank you.